Right, so I think we'll kick off. Anybody who joins will come partway through the presentation. Thank you all for joining this webinar today. We'll be presenting eMIXIT, unique B2B logistics platform, consolidation and logistics platform. Some of you are aware of it already because we've met, we've discussed it to a certain degree. Today we'll basically bring the whole opportunity and business proposition to life. So what is it really? We operate as a consolidator. You can call it a logistics platform for food and drinks products. We launched back end of last year. We have around 300 products on the platform right now. And our area that we operate in, sort of region-wide, is Eastern Europe. So from Poland through to Turkey, the first 6 countries you see in blue are the ones that we've been operating into a degree over the last year. And the others are ones that we are adding on now. Some of them are now outside of the EU, partly driven by what is going on. But we're looking at a huge number of consumers, 350 million plus. What we offer, we actually sell mixed pallets of British, Scottish and Irish products under Taste of Britain, for want of a better description. And currently in the main product groups of ambient, health and bio, frozen and alcohol. We'll be adding on fresh in the new year. Our selling proposition to trade customers is that we offer products that differentiate. In other words, ones that aren't readily available in this region and at low risk for the customer. Because our minimum order quantity for our trade customer is a layer of a pallet per SKU. So therefore, they don't have to hold the stocks at their end of products that they are new to them and they may not be that sure about in the beginning. Orders are placed directly on the platform by distributors, wholesalers, retail and food service multiples. So basically all the trade customers that we deal with. And in many of the markets, stroke regions, we have already appointed a trade partner, an agent, so to speak, that we work with within the marketplace. All orders and payments are processed by eMIXIT, which is a British company. Registered office is in London. And stock is then consolidated over label and local languages as required. This depends on the end customer that we're dealing with in UK warehouses, and some of these details we'll cover a little bit later in the presentation. We can deliver directly to customers in Eastern Europe using transport companies that are tried and tested. So from your point of view, and why we believe that this is a good opportunity is that you have the experience of exporting, dealing with foreign markets to a large degree. You understand there is a high cost of trade marketing, be it fairs, buyer events, travel, sending samples to different customers. Finding and developing good distributors is a really very time-consuming challenge. And then you've also have your products against competition, not only from your local market, but against foreign exports as well. So really, the time involved in developing new countries is a pretty elongated process. It's then also understanding the local market dynamics, who the players are, how to access the different routes to market. No guarantee of results. I mean, there isn't ever any guarantee of results, but with all this effort and with all this cost, that's actually quite a substantial investment. At eMIXIT, we offer a lower cost route to market, and more efficient time-wise as well. So we've got a proven model. We've already been selling out in these markets. We go to the local trade events, be it trade shows. We have face-to-face meetings with buyers. We control the distribution of samples across all the markets. And very importantly, we also manage the sales channels, because it's very easy for a distributor to say they want exclusivity, but do they actually cover the entire market? And which aspects of the market do they cover? We know these things because we do know who the players are in the market and the customers that they service. We very carefully select our suppliers. They have to be products that differentiate, because there's no point in exporting a product that's got local production at a lower cost, like for like. So we look for products that add value, and with that there's a level of exclusivity, which we'll cover a bit later as well. So we're a British company. We've got operations in Poland, so we're at the coalface. I'm actually speaking to you from Poland today. Looking outside, it's a pretty grey, miserable day, but it may not be that different to what it is in the UK. So sort of climate-wise, slight extremes here, but not that different. And also there's a low one-off trade marketing cost in the beginning to basically get the business up and running. A bit about the region itself and the market potential. This is from an FDF report, Food and Drink Federation. This is going back 2016-17. We're waiting for sort of updated figures, but it shows that the markets of Eastern Europe have been experiencing staggering growth rates. If you have a look at here, Poland was 43% year-on-year. Latvia, okay, from a small base, but still 116%, and Romania. I mean, these are amazing growth figures. And Poland at that time was the 7th largest market for food and drink exports. It's still within the top 10, and it's growing quickly. And this entire region is growing really quickly. If you have a look at this chart, basically the growth in food and drink exports in Europe will be driven by the economies of Central and Eastern Europe. IDG did a forecast from research that grocery retail sales over the next 5 years will grow 3 times faster in CE than in Western Europe. And that's largely because these markets have got pretty fast economies, growing economies in their own right, between 3 and 4%. Basically across the region, some are actually even a lot faster. So the markets of Poland, Romania and Russia are experiencing very strong growth. Poland's purchasing power parity is forecast to exceed Italy within 5 to 7 years. So all of these markets in Central and Eastern Europe are playing catch up with disposable income, and they are catching up quickly. A staggering fact that we came across is that Prague was the 7th wealthiest region in the European Union in 2017, which is actually just amazing. This is as a city agglomeration. So that's just a picture of generally the region and the potential. In terms of the proposition for buyers, now what we offer is really a low-risk import of mixed pallets with products that differentiate. And the clue here is products that differentiate. It's difficult to actually package British products or products from the whole of the United Kingdom under one banner, because all the products are very different. And to be perfectly honest, buyers in these markets don't really know what a British product is in the first place. But the one word that actually holds things together is innovation. And that is, in fact, what we're offering, be it innovation in production technology, in packaging, in development, R&D. There's a huge amount of innovation across the UK. and that is what we're presenting in terms of the differentiation. So it's low risk for buyers in terms of minimum order quantity. For suppliers, it's basically a simple and lower cost for exporting to these new markets. So we offer quite a lot of different markets in a package. And in Europe and beyond, we're already going further beyond the sort of borders of Eastern Europe as sort of the opportunities head in that direction. So we've coined a phrase. This is something that we're using all the time: Great Britain leading food and drink innovation. And as I mentioned, that is the one thing that we can actually say that holds majority of the brands together. And it's actually very good news for potential buyers. So going into a bit of detail now, how we operate. In terms of the logistics side, we work with warehousing and fulfillment providers in the UK. For ambient, frozen and chilled, we have warehousing east of London. And the great thing is that we have it all under one roof there, so when we actually bring in chilled later on, we can work with a one partner. And for alcohol, we've got a bonded warehouse that we work with called Law Distribution, close to Manchester. And the process for buyers is that they place orders on the platform. We agree prices, labeling and transport as required, and payment terms in euro, not always in euro, because we prefer payment in pounds if we can, particularly with the volatility of the pound in recent months. And eMIXIT then takes title of goods upon order from a buyer. So at that process, at that stage of the process, we take title of goods when we send a purchase order to you. When it comes to alcohol products, we can't officially take title of goods, so the terminology we use is agent, but nonetheless the process is the same. And what we generally agree with suppliers is 45 days on invoice, which covers, from our experience, a majority of eventualities. With bigger retail chains, we may be pushed to 60 days. So far, we haven't. So we see that that is something that should be workable. XOX prices from suppliers from yourselves, if you actually join the platform, should include transport to the local warehouse, basically to the addresses mentioned, because then our XOX price includes the transport to that location. We do request 5% standard discount on XOX prices delivered to the warehouse. This is really to allow a certain level of competitiveness, bearing in mind Eastern Europe is playing catch up with disposable income. There is pressure on price. There's slightly less pressure on price on innovation and products that really are different, because there is less of a comparison. But nonetheless, we just have to be aware that there are a lot of price-driven discussions generally across these markets. So in essence, we act as a consolidator or brand manager. We cover the storage and order processing. This is within our margin, our sales margin to customers. Overlabeling and transport is an additional cost for the customer. And sales and marketing costs are added to the margin as well. So they are included within the margin. Obviously, additional marketing costs as we go forward, be it sales, promotion, etc. Those are additional costs agreed then with buyers and with yourselves for specific promotions. Our margins are pretty standard. We have more or less 8 to 12% when we work with importers and distributors. And with various markets, we've got importers and distributors that are supplying certain channels, and 20 to 25% when we work with end buyers, be it the retailers or HoReCa chains. And we do that also to actually manage the pricing in the market. So we don't have situations where we're selling too low to a retail chain and we can't build in a distributor margin to broaden your distribution into other channels. Marketing and sales. Now, this is a key part of it because we are constantly doing trade marketing, as you'd expect us to. We are going out to these markets on an ongoing basis. We take part in buyer events. We do presentations directly to buyers in their offices. We distribute product samples across the region to potential customers. And then obviously the sales and the order processing. We can also organize consumer promotions as we have done in the past with major retail and HoReCa customers. These are bespoke promotions, and that we come to you whether this is a promotion that you want to join at the particular time. Trade shows, major brand listing, and these consumer promotions do require financial participation, which is on a case-by-case basis. So generally, we will come to you and say, right, this is an event that we are looking to take part in. These should be the sort of estimated sales. So the calculations you can do on a per case basis. What we have found in the past running promotions, consumer promotions, is that at least the cost of the promotion were covered more or less by the volume of sale, and it actually has allowed us to get a listing with a certain retail chain. As mentioned, we work with local trade partners in certain markets, and this we are developing as really our core business driver in each country to manage all the sales channels and customer relations. So trade marketing, some examples. As mentioned, we launched sort of last quarter of 2018. Prior to that, we ran various trade shows. So we took a stand as eMIXIT, sampling basically all the products on the platform. Last year we also took part in events. Some of these events were in Poland and Czech Republic, meeting with buyers, sampling products, as you can see. And then, the meetings, roadshows that we did in Hungary and Slovakia was actually going to the buyers' premises. So we actually go to their offices and we lay out all the products that they're potentially interested, and we leave them with samples. So it's sort of one-to-one meetings in offices. Throughout 2019, we've done a lot of groundwork. We did a buyer meetings in Germany. We then had roadshows in the Czech Republic, Hungary, Slovakia. We did organized bespoke events in Poland and Czech Republic and in Hungary. And these bespoke events actually work extremely well because it's literally just us showcasing everything we have on the platform and inviting buyers to this event. Now, obviously, these are pretty costly, but we have found in terms of return on investment, it's a better route than trade shows because the buyers are actually coming to see us and everything that we have. So this is what we've been doing this year, and we've also started opening up the Turkish market as well. So from a trade point of view, you can see there's a lot of activity. Consumer promotions, we've done various consumer promotions, on-pack promotions in the Czech Republic, online promotions with online retail. In Germany, that was a British Week promotion. That was actually a couple of years ago that we supported. And we run a fan page. This is actually in Poland at the moment. We've got over 11,000 active fans for British food and drink. And this is great because we can then promote sales where the products can be found in different stores. and this fan page, then we're planning to roll out into all the markets that we operate. We own something like 3 years of content here, so it's a huge amount of content, and great value for these markets and for our customers. Here are just some examples of shelves with products from our platform on sale. So covering basically a pretty broad range of categories. And then market news, this is just something that we present in terms of insights in the different markets and regions, particularly for this year. Now, we're not going to pretend that this year was easy. It's been tough. With Brexit, there have been certain markets that have been closed, like Germany, after visiting retail and HoReCa buyers and distributors, and actually having opened up the market, then we were just told, well, basically sort out Brexit and come back to us. Austria is much the same. There have been certain customers in other markets that have actually literally said that as well. So we've been working around that, you know, building the relations and pushing forward with sales wherever we can. And also, it's then taken us into countries or markets beyond the EU, like CIS and Ukraine and Turkey, where we've actually started building those markets as well. And there really, it'll be very much with local trade partners. But a big event we're taking part in at the end of November is on this page, as you can see, a lot of different retailers from across the region where we'll be presenting them face to face, and we'll be presenting basically the entire platform. The buyers will be from different categories, so all the categories will be covered generally across this number of retailers, but to get access to decision makers in these retailers is just huge. And this also is driving sort of our timing, A, for this webinar, and also for companies that wish to join the platform, because we'll be going out there with samples and presenting them basically to these buyers. Now, these buyers, some of them are kind of more premium chains, others are mainstream. Tesco you'll recognize, and there'll be other retailers that you recognize, I'm sure, from this group as well. So this is something that we're doing at the end of November. So joining eMIXIT, how does our business model work? Firstly, we try and get companies to join in a number of different countries. We say minimum of 5 countries or regions. It really depends on where your distribution is currently, and we work with you to come up with the right sort of package. But the objective is to have economies of scale. We don't know where your products will sell the quickest. So it's really A, spreading the risk, and B, generating those economies of scale that we can actually push. We charge a one-off trade marketing cost, which is £100 per product per country or region, basically according to those countries' regions shown. And that includes us registering the company on the platform, uploading all the images, texts, translation for labels as required, and that's on a per as required basis. And also all the trade marketing, so local buy events, you know, meetings, presentation, distribution of samples across the region. This is now during the first 12 months because our focus is to get sales for you within the first 12 months. Now, the fact is you have to be prepared for a period of 12 months because certain products sell more quickly than others. Our objective is obviously to get you moving as quickly as possible because, you know, we don't want to continue investing in trade marketing without a return like yourselves. So our objective is to get those sales in as quickly as possible. But, you know, with all intents and purposes, this region isn't easy, so we have to allow for that sort of period. The way we operate with that, and these are just examples. For example, the minimum level for joining the platform is £2,000 as a cost. It can be split into 4 products for 5 countries, or 4 products for 6 countries at a slightly higher figure. I mean, these we will all discuss with you in terms of the range of products, and obviously if you've got 1 or 2 products, I mean, this is all something to be discussed. But generally, we look for a range because that is what buyers are looking for, and we'll work that range with you and the countries to choose. Payment is in advance, and also we do give discounts then for you choosing a larger number of regions. If you register subsequent products, the registration cost is the same, £100 per product per country listed above. We do this also on a first choice basis. In other words, we try to avoid direct competition between products in any given category. It doesn't make sense for you, it doesn't make sense for us, and it doesn't make sense for the buyers. So if there are similar products, then at least we try and work with different flavors, variants. Obviously, when it comes to beers and gins and things like that, I mean, there are different ingredients, and these are the sort of things that we try and work with. We have to pull out the USP, unique selling proposition, and that is core for us. What is great positive, I think, for yourselves is that if you have products for retail and for food service, and it's the same product but just in different packaging formats, it's just one cost. So it's still £100 for that product, irrespective of how many different pack sizes you have. And the more you have, the better for us, because the greater opportunity we have and the more channels we can actually service. We set a deadline for registration because right now we are doing a lot in terms of preparation of new brands for presentations to potential customers, with what we're doing at the end of November, but not only. I mean, we've got constant meetings. So we're looking at 15th of November. We know that's tight, but we can actually help you work through that. And it'll be really great to then get your samples by 22nd of November. So literally, we can take them with us to the meetings with retail buyers. So that's generally how we operate now. Once you're actually on the platform, we do then add you possibly into other markets if we see there is a potential. We don't, go and charge each time for that. It depends on how we are working with your brand and where we see the potential. So we are flexible here, but in the beginning, we do need, obviously, basically your participation in the trade marketing, because the investment in the first 12 months is pretty substantial. Summary of the benefits: we've got a proven model, we're doing it, and we select you first. So we identify, so the reason why you're actually on this webinar is we've already identified that you have got something to offer that is different, and we work with you on that to create the range. We save you the time and the money, so you don't actually have to come out to these markets for these meetings. We do all that for you. There will be points where you may want to come out once your products are on sale. We've got a major promotion running, etc., etc. But we do provide the scale, multiple options and flexibility, and also we are adding on new countries within the region and beyond. Our partners, so we work with trusted companies, Law Distribution in terms of alcohol, Eastern Nord in terms of warehousing and making up pallets in terms of ambient, frozen and chilled. Prolog is a bonded warehouse in Poland, and then we got the travel or transport companies rather that we work with, and we are adding on new transport companies on an ongoing basis. You'll probably know most of them anyway. I won't go through the appendix. Here's some references from companies that we're working with. Details by myself and Philip. This will all be in the presentation that you get. And finally, a thank you and our sort of visual that we have been working with for a number of years, not only fish and chips. To be honest, it's still something that we actually say to the trade in all these markets because they don't actually know, as I mentioned, what British products are. So we've got a bit of explanation to do, but the innovation is something that helps us hugely. So I thank you very much for your time and attendance. There are some questions that I'll take. So the question here: which channels or market sectors do your current distribution partners mainly operate? Retail, online, HoReCa. To be perfectly honest, it's really market by market. We, when it comes to the distributors, yes, they specialize. So we've got distribution partners in HoReCa and separately in retail. With online, that would generally come under retail in most instances. And in some of these markets, these distributors actually cover both channels, particularly if there's a more specialized product group. So it is very much market by market. There's a question here which is actually more an offline question in terms of soft drinks and mixers. I think we'll actually cover that separately. Will we be sharing these slides? Absolutely. These will be sent to you after this presentation. Can you talk in more detail about the market and demand for alcohol and spirits? The demand for alcohol and spirits is an interesting one. Going from generally, I mean, in these markets, when it comes to spirits, these are spirit drinking countries. You're talking about Poland, etc. I mean, you've got the home of vodka. So they're used to spirits. And to give you sort of a benchmark, Poland in recent years was the fastest growing market for growth in per capita consumption of whiskey in the world. So the potential is huge, but for example, in whiskey, in some of the more now developed CE markets, the competition is there. So it is, for example, presenting what is the next opportunity. And one conversation, and a recent conversation, blended malt whiskies, for example, is a trend that's developing. And it's something that requires a bit of work because we're coming in with a premium product in a category where single malts start even lower than the price of blended malts. So it's developing this, it's developing the partners that actually understand that. Gins is another area where in certain markets, there has been a lot of gin available, although not at the craft end. Hungary, for example, the first craft gin appeared on their shelves earlier this year. So Hungary, for example, is probably about 5 years behind the rest of the market when it comes to that. So once again, it's market by market. It's telling the stories, and it's getting the customers to say, right, I want something different that somebody else doesn't have. And that's exactly what we have on our platform. We basically have products that aren't generally available in these markets. Is Indian cuisine sources an upcoming trend? It's a trend that's growing. Asia generally has been big anyway in these markets. Indian less so, but that is actually a category that's starting to grow, and there are markets that are probably more open to these sort of products. For example, Hungary, Czech Republic, where they're actually more used to spicy foods. So certain Eastern markets are probably better for Indian products than others. But you look at the Polish market, and the main players are here. In fact, AB Foods has got a factory in Poland producing patacs, which they export to the whole of Western Europe. So there has been a lot of opportunity here as well. How would you manage initial order of one layer of a pallet? Now, with layer of a pallet in terms of yourselves, this is also on a case-by-case basis. It depends on the product. We try and actually build up orders with customers, at least of a range within of what you offer, and being able to service more than one market. Our objective is not to be taking a layer off you per SKU, but in the beginning it may be required to get the business going. So it's one of these things that we have to cross that bridge when we come to it. It's not in your interest, and it's not in our interest to be taking a layer from you anyway, because the cost of transport of that pallet doesn't make sense. We also don't want to hold stock where we have to watch the sell-by date counting down. So as I say, in the beginning with every supplier, it's case-by-case basis of seeing what can actually be shifted. Now, when it comes to obviously higher value items like spirits, there's a greater likelihood, because we, even with spirits, offer mixed layers to initial customers. So they can actually make up mixed layers of cases, because with products that they do not know, that with some customers needs to be the route forward. But as I say, I mean, this is breaking into these markets in the beginning, and it's certainly not, our objective is to get volumes up as quickly as possible with every one of you. And so far it's been manageable with all the suppliers that we're working with. Now, when it comes to Brexit, which is a common question that has come up, which is a question I'm sure on all of your lips. Well, we basically just say to the customers that there'll either be a deal or there'll be no Brexit. I mean, we're just keeping that line. So far, 31st of August, October rather, has come and gone. That's really what we're sticking to, and I believe firmly it'll be the case. So we're just going forward with business as usual. Now are all the discussions, as you know, over the next 2-3 months. These are listings for the next year, and it's no different anywhere else to the UK. I mean, these markets, when it comes to listings, operate much the same way. So we are then focusing on that right now. I think those are all the questions. Thank you very much for attending the webinar. I hope it's been fruitful. Philip will now follow up with everybody in terms of the presentation and discussions going forward. Thank you once again, and enjoy the fireworks tonight.